This recorded presentation is on foundational skills for comprehending academic language. There are 5 signposts on the path toward meaning making that we'll illuminate in this recorded presentation. 1. See the subjects. 2. Notice the nouns. 3. Attend to anaphora. 4. Command the connectives. And 5. Admire the appositives. Consider this passage. The northern U.S. and Canada are places where herons live and breed. Spending the winter here has its advantages. Great blue herons live and breed in most of the northern U.S. It's an advantage for herons to avoid the dangers of migration. Herons head south when the cold weather arrives. The earliest herons to arrive on the breeding grounds have an advantage. The winters are relatively mild in Cape Cod. The sentences were each crisp, clear, and lucid on their own. They pertain to a single topic, but is the passage coherent? As skilled readers, writers, thinkers, can we make sense of what the writer's main message is? According to linguist Steven Pinker, it's the hunger for coherence that drives the entire process of understanding language. No sentence is an island, nor is a paragraph, a section, or a chapter. All of them contain links to other chunks of text. A sentence may elaborate, qualify, or generalize the one that came before. A theme or topic may run through a long stretch of writing. People, places, and ideas may make repeat appearances, and the reader must track them as they come and go. These connections, which drape themselves from the limbs of one tree to the limbs of another, violate the neatly nested branch within branch geometry of a tree. I'll call them arcs of coherence. Let's think about coherence. What is the main idea that connects these sentences? A newspaper is better than a magazine. A seashore is a better place than a street. At first, it's better to run than walk. You may have to try several times at first. It takes some skill, but is easy to learn. Even young children can enjoy it. Birds seldom get close. Rain, however, soaks in very fast. Would it have helped if at the outset the writer telegraphed the point, flying a kite? Now let's revisit the blue heron passage, written in a way that attends to a reader's need for cohesion. Great blue herons live and breed just about anywhere in the northern U.S. and most of Canada. When the cold weather arrives, the herons head south. A few come to Cape Cod, where the winters usually aren't too bad. These herons are either inexperienced young birds or lost adult males too stubborn to ask for directions south. Spending the winter here has its advantages, and I'm not talking about the free off-season parking in Provincetown. Herons are able to avoid the dangers of migration, plus they can be one of the earliest to arrive on the breeding grounds. The topic becomes clear: herons in winter. This blue heron on the screen is reminding us to focus on grammatical subjects of each sentence as a way to establish cohesion. See how the subjects align. Most of the subjects relate to herons. I'm using blue underlined bolded font to show this. One exception is in green italicized font. Great blue herons live and breed just about anywhere in the northern U.S. and most of Canada. When the cold weather arrives, the herons head south. A few come to Cape Cod, where the winters usually aren't too bad. These herons are either inexperienced young birds or lost adult males too stubborn to ask for direction south. Now we deviate with our subject. Spending the winter here has its advantages, and I'm not talking about the free off-season parking in Provincetown. We're back to referring to our main subject. Herons are able to avoid the dangers of migration, plus they can be one of the earliest to arrive on the breeding grounds. Let's see what else we can do to establish cohesion. This blue heron is reminding us to use what we know about the noun system of English. This includes names, indefinite and definite articles, and pronouns. Notice the nouns here. An indefinite noun phrase in blue underlined bolded font is used at the onset. Then a definite noun phrase is used. We've got green italicized font. Then we're further introduced to a subset of the subject, and that is referred to with orange italicized font. So we've got great blue herons live, the herons, referring back to great blue herons, and now we've got a subset, a few, a referent back to that subset, these herons. Not every writer is careful with nouns. Some refer to us as long-legged waders, azure avians, and sapphire sentinels of the sky, comments one blue heron to another. Let's see what this sounds like with some noun reference gone awry. Great blue herons live and breed just about anywhere in the northern US and most of Canada. When the cold weather arrives, the long-legged waders head south. Azure avians come to Cape Cod, where the winters usually aren't too bad. Sapphire sentinels of the skies are either inexperienced young birds or lost males too stubborn to ask for directions south. Spending the winter here has its advantages, and I'm not talking about the free off-season parking in Provincetown. Ardea herodias are able to avoid the dangers of migration. Plus, they can be one of the earliest to arrive on the breeding grounds. The second heron is commenting back here. I know, right? Thank goodness for anaphoric resolution. We read about anaphora in the assigned reading by Mesmer and Rose McCauley. Anaphora is when one word or group of words replaces another within a sentence or across sentences. For example, this sentence is Nick spits when he talks. He refers back to Nick. Pronouns often replace nouns. We've got subject, object, and possessive pronouns. Subject pronouns are I, you, he, she, we, you, they. Object pronouns are me, you, her, him, us, you, them. Possessive pronouns are my, your, yours, her, hers, his, our, ours, your, yours, their, and theirs. There's a Storylords video, kind of a throwback in time, on anaphoric resolution. You can see the link in the interactive notebook and on Canvas. I've also linked to a website where I housed materials from a study on teaching third graders to make sense of pronouns in actual authentic chapter book texts from the third grade classroom. So you can download a curriculum guide, assessments, resources, and find more information on how you might go about using explicit instruction to teach students to resolve pronoun reference in actual connected text reading. There's more than just pronouns to anaphora, though. This passage is from Eliza's Cherry Trees, also mentioned in the Mesmer Rose McCurley article. The passage reads, "The thousands of the trees were planted in parks and along riverbanks. When they bloomed, the trees became clouds of pink blossoms. As the petals drifted down, it was like pink snowfall. The Japanese people loved the cherry trees as their national symbol. Crowds gathered for picnics under the trees. People wrote poems and painted pictures to honor the sakura." In addition to the ways that writers maybe obfuscate meaning, we've got things like confusing reference. Another pattern is the use of connectives. So a reader needs to have command over these connectives when they're reading to know how to construct meaning from the text. A connective is a word that explicitly links one clause, like and, but, that, which, or that connects two adjacent sentences, like however and thus. There are varying types of connectives. In the Mesmer Rose McCauley article, listed these by complexity, starting with the easiest ones to master, and also, moreover, as well, they kind of join and add on information. But we get a little more complicated when we think about adding a conditional, using like subjunctive verb tense, what would happen if, these if-then constructions, showing contradiction or opposites with however, yet, even though. A final way that writing can be challenging, especially academic writing, is figuring out how to Russell and appositives. So appositives are nouns or noun phrases or noun clauses set off by commas usually that immediately follow a noun. They rename the noun and they provide more information about it. So it should be a contextual support. It should be something helpful to a reader, but it might be confusing if you're not sure how to process it or make sense of what its function is in a sentence. So like noun and pronoun replacements, appositives can be confusing to inexperienced readers who are trying to track the kernel of sentiment. Frequently, students struggle with vocabulary because they miss the contextual cues in the passage that support their understanding. Once they're taught, identifying appositives in a sentence can appear simple. And when students begin to look for the commas, they can gain meaning from the sentence. So we've got two examples here. My sister, Ginny, likes red apples. So Ginny is set off by pairs of commas there because Ginny refers to my sister. My sister Ginny likes red apples. In this case, there are no commas, but Ginny is giving us additional information about my sister.